Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for our last live event of 2022.
And for those of you that have followed us this past year, we want to thank you for being part of the audience. And for those of you that are with us today, we're thankful for that as well. So
Absolutely. This event is being recorded, just like all our past events. As Mike said, and as I just mentioned, this is our last one of 2022. But we have a whole year's worth that you can go back and watch if you missed them. That you can find them under our videos here on Facebook, or you can jump over to our YouTube account, which is just Life Data Labs Inc. And you can watch them there. We watch them.
Sure.
We've done them. Let's recap a little bit. What all have we done this year, Mike?
we've covered many topics this past year.
Many topics. We talked a lot about insulin resistance.
We have. We talked a little bit about some of your bacterial issues, thrush, white line.
Absolutely.
Abscessing.
Yep. Last live event, we talked about winter care.
And we did, right. And if I remember correctly, how to feed the horse, and that list goes on and on.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely. Yeah. So if you did miss one, that is available to watch. Or again, if for whatever reason you get interrupted while watching live today, you can actually go back and watch and finish it or rewatch it.
Right. In fact, I think one of our more popular sessions dealt with abscessing, if I'm not correctly.
Absolutely. So please, in the comments, let us know where you're watching from. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to hit the share button. Of course, that helps us out here and helps get this information out to more individuals. Today, we're going to be talking about horse care myths, which is going to be a fun topic. I know everyone's got opinions and different things about these myths and about some of the things that we're going to be talking about, so feel free to comment in the comments. We're going to do things a little bit different today. A lot of times we'll pause in the middle of our presentation and do a trivia and ask you some questions, and of course do our giveaway. Live giveaways. We're going to do things a little bit different. We're actually going to have an end of the year giveaway. And so instead of doing the trivia questions, instead of doing the grand prize, we're going to do a bigger grand prize. Will, why don't you go ahead and throw that up for me? So we're going to actually do a testimonial giveaway. So you have until the end of the year. You can send in your testimonial to cservice@lifedatalabs.com. And we just want to hear your experience with Farrier's Formula, with Hoof Clay, Finish, any of our Life Data products. If you've been using them, send in your testimonial to C-Service. Make sure that you have photos. If it's just a picture of you and your horse, that's great. If you've got some before and after pictures, that's even better. And don't forget to include your name and your email address. So send those in, and that's going to enter you into our grand prize giveaway, or our end of the year giveaway, which is going to be several different things. It's actually, if you look right here, we've got our Farrier's Formula Double Strength, our Farrier's Finish, a Hoof Clay, a Life Data t-shirt, a Breeder's Formula, and a Compose. So we're going to randomly choose 3 of those testimonials at the end of the year, and those 3 people are going to win this massive prize pack.
It's very nice.
Absolutely.
Very nice Christmas present.
Absolutely.
Right.
And what we're going to do is, as you send in those testimonials, basically from now until the end of the year, we're going to pick some and we're going to start featuring them on our social media accounts. We're going to be posting them and resharing them. And so please send those in. And again, if you do, you get you have a chance to receive a nice little prize pack.
Sure.
And so that's going to be our grand prize giveaway this time around. Again, just as a friendly reminder, if anyone posts any links or anything along those lines in the comments, don't click on those. Whenever anyone does live streams on Facebook, people try to take advantage of that by getting credit card information and so on. This event is free, and so we don't need your credit card information. We don't need anything like that, so don't click on any of that information. Well, Mike, we've got people from over in the UK.
Okay, very good.
Just read some of these real quick. Cedar Grove, Tennessee, British Columbia, Bend, Oregon, Wisconsin, Kentucky. So all types of areas all around the world. So if you're watching over in Europe, thank you for attending. We know it's a little bit late over there, but thank you for your time. Well, Mike, as I said, we're going to talk about horse care myths today.
Sure. And if I might ask you, Corbin, since we're going to talk about horse care myths,
Mm-hmm.
maybe we start with exactly what is a myth.
Okay,
You know?
yeah. So,
What do you think? How would
to
you
me,
define that?
I would define a myth as something that is believed but
Mm-hmm.
not exactly proven true,
Okay.
and a lot of times often false.
Okay.
In fact, I've got a few of my own horse care myths
Okay.
that I'm going to read off real quick. You
Okay.
let me know if you've heard of them.
Okay.
And these are all easily dismissive myths, right? So these are, of course, I guess what we wouldn't take serious nowadays, but 100 years ago, these were myths that were common believed when it came to involving horses. So the first one, it's unlucky to wear green around a horse.
I've never heard of that one, Corbin.
Well,
So
considering our colors, we can definitely debunk that
Sure.
one.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I love this one. This one was my favorite. Putting an old horseshoe in a butter churn keeps away butter thieving witches.
All right.
So that one had to come many years ago.
Yep. Sounds like it did. Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like to make your butter taste a little weird.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Another one, a gray horse appearing 3 nights in a row is an omen of death. That's a strange one. Leading a white horse through your house will banish evil.
And it would do other things too, I would imagine.
Absolutely, you might
Mm-hmm.
have a little leftover in your house.
That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then the last one, and I know I've personally heard this one. Let's see if you've heard it. You can cure warts by circling it with a horsehair.
All right. Very good, Corbin.
Of course, the myths that we're going to talk about today aren't going to be as silly as that.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these myths are actually still believed today. A lot of these, of course, we are just now finding out are true as we've done research and as others have done research. And of course, as we continue to expand equine science and from there,
Mm-hmm.
So
sure.
So yeah, why don't we get started a little bit?
Let's take a look at the first one. These are in no particular order. In fact, some of these that we will spend a few minutes talking about are some that you, the audience, have actually sent in.
Absolutely.
So I spent a few minutes doing a little research
Mm-hmm.
on those to see, is it really a myth, or is it true? Is it fact or whatever? And the first one that we will start with, and I think someone actually had sent this one in, but it's about watering a horse,
Mm-hmm.
and especially a horse that has gone through exercise.
Mm-hmm.
It's extremely hot.
Mm-hmm.
It's extremely sweaty. And I guess the tradition, or what a lot of folks would say, is that we don't water the horse immediately after that is completed. So let's give a little thought to that just a little bit.
Okay.
Of course, if we have a horse that is working, number one,
Mm-hmm.
and if we're in a warm area, number two, that horse is going to sweat.
Absolutely.
And of course, during that process of sweating, it's losing many gallons of water,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
along with the electrolytes, okay? So during that exercise as well, that horse is diverting its energy away from the digestive system, and it's it's focusing upon, number one, the muscles of the horse for that horse to perform in work, and it's focusing that upon the other systems of the horse as well, but it's pulling away from the digestive part, meaning that the gut motility is slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And of course, if a horse is exercised long enough and it loses sufficient water, then it starts pulling that water out of the digestive system itself. So with that being said, after extreme exercise, we run the risk of that horse being dehydrated,
Mm-hmm.
number one. Of course, anytime we have a horse that's dehydrated, then that horse loses the ability to cool itself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're working against the cooling process. That horse is also subject to heat stroke, heat stress as well during the process. Of course, it's going to decrease the metabolism, just like we mentioned. It's going to actually slow the recovery process as far as the muscle and the energy recovery that it's lost. And this horse becomes a likely candidate for impaction colic as well. So, with that being said, a lot of times we often hear that a hot horse plus cold water equals colic. But let's turn that around and let's take a look at it in this particular fashion, that an overworked horse equals heat stress equals colic. So with all that being said, it is perfectly fine to provide water to that particular horse after that particular event, and in order to rehydrate itself, number one. I probably wouldn't feed the horse immediately after that, and I might not even feed the horse prior to that event as well, but I would not withhold that water.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
So that was myth number one. Will, did we have the slide up of the horse as well? Okay. All right, let's take a look at another one. And Will, if you'll bring up slide number 2 for me. Of course, we have a white horse here. If you look at the eye, we have blue eyes.
Blue eyes.
And it's often said among horse people that blue eyes are more subject to disease problems. And from the research that I have read from different veterinarians and so forth, that blue eye is no more subject to a disease problem than the brown eye is going to be. Of course, we know the most common color as far as the iris itself is either blue, it's brown, or we can have some multiple shades of that itself. But as far as disease, eye issues, there's no difference there between a blue eye and a brown eye. However, of course, there is a disclaimer there, okay? Of course, if we have a white horse, as you see here, a lot of times in and around that eye, the muzzle of the horse is going to be pink. And of course, we know that area is going to be very subject to sunburn.
Absolutely.
So we need to make some provisions to help eliminate that and prevent that, especially if that horse is out pretty much during the day in the hot direct sun. Of course, with the pink skin, also with sunburn, that horse becomes very much subject to skin cancer. And we certainly don't want that to take place. And there's many things that we can do to help prevent the situation. We have UV blocking fly masks that we can put on the head of the horse or the face of the horse as well. We can monitor our turnout times when we turn out early in the morning, late in the afternoon, or at night to avoid that direct sun itself. So that's the myth about the blue eye versus the brown eye itself.
Absolutely.
And Mr. Will, if you will go to slide number 3 for me. And we're up there. And I think someone had actually sent this one in. What are the benefits of sweat? That is actually scraping sweat. Does it really help cool a horse? Or are there better means to cool a horse than scraping a horse? Of course, after that horse is exercised and it's extremely sweaty there, the best way to cool a horse is through conductive heat transfer. Water hose. Running water over that horse is going to help through a conductive means to remove the heat, body heat, from the horse itself. Now, sweat scraping does not help cool the horse. The only thing that it's going to do is it's going to help dry the horse. Okay? That's the benefit that we get out of that, and not the cooling process itself. So that was the next myth that we came across there. And Will, let's go to slide number 4, please. And we see this nose here. It's covered with these facial hairs, these whisker hairs, And this one was sent in too, you know.
Absolutely.
Do we clip those? Do we leave those?
Mm-hmm.
What do we do? Well, let's consider the nose hairs that we're looking here, and also the hair that's going to be in and around the eye itself. In fact, it's there for a specific reason, okay? And a horse has the ability to see somewhere in the neighborhood of about 350 degrees around the horse itself. It has good vision, okay? Has good night vision as well. But where a horse has problems seeing, believe it or not, is at the end of the nose, where we see those whiskers, and right between the eyes, the forehead there. Mm-hmm. So those hairs that we see there are there as sensory organs. They help protect the horse itself. Mm-hmm. They help that horse to find feed and food, number one. They help that horse from bumping its chin, number two. And then they help prevent eye injury a lot of times to avoid that horse running into something. Mm-hmm. So there is a purpose for that, yes. Now, I realize that a lot of horses that are in competition, all this will be shaved for manicure purposes, for cosmetic purposes. But however, in 1998, in the country of Germany, they banned the removal of facial hair in horses. Oh, wow. Also, France has done the same thing. Switzerland has done the same thing too. And in 2021, the FBI, any of these horses that were competing under their standards, it was against regulations, and the horses would be disqualified if these hairs were removed at that point in time. Of course, the USEF has their own regulations as far as the removal of the facial hair that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. So there is a purpose for it, yes. There's regulations against it if you're competing with a particular horse in these different areas here. So, you know, it's kind of an individual thing, you know, as to whether or not we'll remove those. Okay, let's go to another one.
This next one's going to be a little bit of a big one.
Yes, it's going to be a pretty big one, okay? And let's talk about a B vitamin that's called biotin, okay? And we often hear that it is the cure-all for all hoof problems. And I'm talking about biotin just by itself, okay? So when we take a look at biotin, number one, we're talking about B7. This is vitamin B7. So I'm going to throw out a bunch of facts out there, and then we'll let our audience decide how they want to handle this this here as far as biotin and feeding biotin by itself, okay? Of course, biotin is needed by the horse. We all agree with that, okay? It's used by the horse for a multitude of metabolic functions. It's also important for hoof growth, hoof strength. We know that as well. But some facts that we often are not aware of, in that biotin deficiency is extremely rare in horses across the world. In fact, Dr. Sue Kempson out of the University of Edinburgh in Scotland, in some of her research, determined that only 5% of the horse population would actually benefit from biotin itself. So that would kind of gives you an indication of what percent of the horse population would actually be deficient in this B7 vitamin there. And if we actually had a true biotin deficiency, then what we're going to see in the hoof itself, we're going to see thick layers of hardened tissue. They're going to want to peel off, just like we would unpeel an onion.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the clinical signs of a biotin deficiency. I personally have never seen a biotin deficiency in a horse.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had horses many, many years, and I've been around many horses as well. And you can also be rest assured, if you actually have a true biotin deficiency, that there's going to be other nutrients that are going to be deficient as well. So if we're attacking the problem with biotin by itself, we still have deficiencies there that's not allowing good hoof growth and hoof quality. We're still missing some stuff that horse needs itself. Now, where does biotin come from? Of course, we will find biotin in our pasture grasses. We will find biotin that's been included in the feed stuff that we're providing our horse. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that we may not realize too, that through microbial action in the hindgut of the horse, that horse is able to manufacture biotin on a sufficient basis to meet the daily needs of the horse. Now, we also know that there are certain cases where biotin supplementation is going to come into play. And when I talk about biotin supplementation, I want to think of it as being in the form of a complete hoof supplement. Mm-hmm. In other words, a good hoof supplement is going to have biotin in it, but it's going to have these other nutrients that are going to be needed for this good quality hoof growth as well. And where this extra biotin, say anywhere from 15 to 20 milligrams in a daily dose, is going to come into play, is that if we have a horse that's in heavy work, we have a horse that's severely stressed, or if we have a horse that has gut issues and is not able to manufacture the biotin, then it's going to be an asset when it's used in a situation like that. And certainly if we have a horse that is dealing with laminitis or founder, biotin plays a good role in a situation like that, along with included in the complete hoof supplement then. Mm-hmm. So that's the facts about biotin. Okay?
Absolutely. So that one's almost a yes-no thing. Yes, it's important for the hoof.
Yes.
But no, it's not the only thing important for the hoof.
That's right. There are other nutrients that come into play along with the biotin. Mm-hmm. That's in a complete hoof supplement. Absolutely. And not just biotin by itself. Mm-hmm. Now, another thing that we will point out too is that the good thing about biotin is this, and if we over supplement with biotin, it is water soluble. Okay. It's not fat soluble. So if it was fat soluble, it would accumulate within the horse itself. But being water soluble, any excess, the kidneys of the horse have to expel the excess there. So we're actually taxing the kidney of the horse with an excess amount of anything, really. Mm-hmm. Okay?
So since it's water soluble, if, say for example, someone is feeding their horse a biotin supplement, or just biotin, you know, by itself, and that horse was not deficient in biotin, you're not going to necessarily harm the horse, but you're also not going to really make a difference in that, a complete difference in that hoof.
That's right. You're not going to see the benefit that you would get out of complete hoof supplement there.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Okay.
In fact, to grow good dermal tissue or connective tissue or keratin or whatever you want to call it, it takes a host of different minerals, the vitamins that we're talking about here, amino acids, and fatty acids to do that. And that they all have a role, they all have a certain thing that they're going to target on in improving this hoof quality. And the most important thing is that they have to be in the right proportion and ratio to each other for the horse to fully utilize and take up and absorb and have benefit from what you are feeding them.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's the story about biotin. Okay, Mr. Will, how about slide number 5 for us, please? And I think someone had actually sent this one in. I have put my horse up for the winter.
Mm-hmm.
And since that horse is idle, the horse is doing nothing, then can I cut back on the amount of hay that we're feeding? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the basic diet of any horse is forage, which is made up of whatever pasture the horse is allowed to graze and whatever hay is being provided that horse as well. And of course, as a general rule of thumb, we need to provide anywhere from 1.5 to 2% of the body weight of that horse in this forage on a dry matter basis, okay? So if we have a 1,000-pound horse and if we were feeding 2%, we're looking at a total of 20 pounds of forage/hay on a dry matter basis per day, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, during the winter months, when it's extremely cold, that hay and that forage provides a critical asset for the horse, and that is it helps to produce heat. Mm-hmm. It helps to maintain the core body temperature. It helps to keep that horse warm. It's not feed, okay, but it's the forage, it's the hay that we're providing that horse itself. Now, so during the winter months, to answer this question specifically, more than likely if it's extremely cold, we're not going to cut back, but we're going to increase the amount of hay that we're providing that horse on a daily basis to keep the horse warm. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, there's one thing that we need to keep in mind, and that's the ambient temperature, the outside temperature, because that directly will influence the amount of hay that we feed a horse on a daily basis. And what we're referring to is what we call critical temperature. The critical temperature, say in a show horse that has been clipped during the winter months, is 41 degrees. That's the critical temperature. In a horse that has sufficient winter coat, winter hair already in place, that critical temperature is 18 degrees. So, for each degree under that 41 or that 18, then we're going to increase the amount of hay that we're giving that horse, okay? Mm-hmm. All right, and we're going to increase that by 2% per day for each 1 degree under the critical temperature. I said a lot there. Let me give you an example. If we have a 1,000-pound horse, and if we're feeding 2% in body weight to begin with, that's 20 pounds, mm-hmm. Okay? Let's say that this is, it's 10 degrees under our critical temperature, 10 degrees under, okay? And we're going, for each degree, we're going to add 2% more hay. So we're going to have 10 times 0.02, which is 2%, and that equals 2/10, or 0.2. And so the amount that we're already feeding was 20 pounds. So we multiply the 20 pounds by that 2/10, and we come up with 4 pounds. So we're going to add an additional 4 pounds of hay per day under this particular scenario here, for a total of 24 pounds. And that extra is going to help keep that horse warm during those cold conditions as well.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, that's extremely important for these horses who are elderly or who are, those hard keepers.
And that's a very good point. And especially if you have a horse that has a body condition score of less than 4, mm-hmm. They're going to struggle when it comes to extremely cold temperatures. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be very beneficial for them as well.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I don't think you're going to tackle this one, but just because we talked about winter and we talked about hay, and of course mm-hmm. we have that, preparing your horse for winter live event that we did previously, which we talked a little bit about hay, and of course this as well. But this particular one was, I don't need to feed the horse as much since the horse isn't as active. But another kind of myth that floats around is, that you don't need the farrier out as much during the winter because the hoof slows.
Well, the hoof growth is slower, yes, but what we need to keep in mind is that hoof still needs to be kept balanced, okay? We always want a balanced foot, number one, and because we've talked about it in past, if we have a foot that's out of balance, then that's felt all the way up through the limb of the horse. It's going to work on the joints of the horse as well. But if we have a problem, say back between the heel bulbs or whatever, and we've got some shearing going on, if that hoof capsule is out of balance, and that just aids that just prolongs that situation there.
Absolutely.
So yeah, balance is extremely important. Okay, changing the subject completely now. Are horses colorblind? What do you think?
I'm gonna say not the colorblind as black-white colorblind as we may think.
Okay. Horses are not colorblind, okay? They are able basically to distinguish two colors. That's blue and yellow. Blue and yellow. So they're not colorblind at all. Of course, a horse has extremely good vision. A horse has good night vision as well. Okay, maybe that goes back to one of your sayings from the very beginning about green.
Yeah.
I don't know. So yeah. So yes, a horse is not colorblind. Okay. Let's continue on to some other things that's on our list here. This one right here. All horses need shoes. What do you think, Corbin?
I'm going to say no to that one.
Okay, and that's exactly right. All horses don't need shoes, okay? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. In fact, the horse is going to tell us whether or not it needs to be shod, okay? If we have a horse that's struggling on a hard surface that has thin soles, then yes, that horse needs some protection there. And it can come in the form of shoes if we choose to do that. If this is taking place while we're trail riding or something like that, and this is an unshod horse, boots go a long way to give us extra protection there. If we have a horse that's competing quite vigorously and he's wearing off quite a bit of hoof wall and sole, then yes, that horse probably needs some protection there when it comes to shoes. And depending on that particular discipline that they're engaging in, that horse may need some additional traction or well. But the statement that all horses need shoes, no, that's not the case there.
Well, it's also the reverse. I hear a lot of times, that shoes are bad for the horse, and that should all be barefoot.
Sure.
But there's some horses that just can't be barefoot.
Sure, and a good example of that, if we have some type of a foot disorder, number one. In fact, if we have a foundered horse or whatever, sometimes it takes a corrective shoe to help alleviate and to keep the horse comfortable as well. If we have navicular problems or tendon problems or whatever, there are corrective shoes that can be used in situations like that. Okay? The bottom line is this, that each horse is an individual in itself, and we address that horse as that.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
All right. All right, let's open up the floodgate here now.
Okay.
Okay? Black hooves are stronger than white hooves.
We've had people commenting on this subject since we posted about this event.
So, what do you think?
I'm going to say that the color of the hoofs don't really play a factor.
You're exactly right. In fact, there's been much research that has been done on this particular debate here, that black hooves are stronger than white hooves. There's no research that would prove that, okay? Now, what determines whether or not Will, do we have the slide up there?
Put it back up.
Okay. What determines whether or not we have a white hoof capsule, a black hoof capsule, a brown hoof capsule, a striped hoof capsule, or whatever. What determines that? It starts at the cornea band, number one. And it's determined by the skin color pigment, or the skin pigment that's there. And that's going to determine, number one, the color of the hoof itself. So, you know, we can have a horse that has 1 white foot or 4 white feet, okay? And there's an old saying that goes way, way back, okay, in years. And if we have a horse that has 1 white foot, we'll still go ahead and buy the horse, okay? If it has 2 white feet, well, we'll give the horse a try anyway to make sure that it'll work for us. If it has 3 white feet, we need to take a real close look at this horse, okay? And then the last thing is if it has 4 white feet, let's just leave the horse. Let's go home without the horse, okay? So that's a saying that goes back many, many, many years, okay? The bottom line is, from research, there's no difference in that white hoof versus the black hoof itself. It's determined at the coronary band. And if we have a dark colored hoof capsule that started at the coronary band, that pigmentation, or that color, is only skin deep. In fact, that color is only on the outside, the extreme outside of the hoof wall itself, okay? Of course, we know that there are certain breeds that are more inclined to hoof issues, okay? And of course, we also know that this premise here, that black hooves are tougher, harder, are better than white hooves, started many, many years ago. And when this premise started, or this myth started, at that particular time, we didn't have radiographs. We didn't have x-rays. Today we do. We can see inside that hoof capsule. We can see inside that white hoof, that black hoof. We can determine the thickness of the hoof wall and sole depth itself, okay? And the thing that we need to realize as well is that there are many factors that's going to work on hoof quality. Nutrition, the environment, all those come into play. So if we have a horse that has white feet and we're not doing a good job on a nutritional basis, we're neglecting the environmental factors that are working on hoof quality, it's easier for us to say, well, he's just a white-footed horse, okay? And leave it at that. What about this, though? What if that was a black-footed horse? We don't say, well, he's just a black-footed horse, okay? But if it's white-footed, we blame the white foot, okay? Bottom line is, there's no research that will prove that black is better than the white.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
All right.
If you've got a, genetics, of course, plays a major role. And
absolutely, sure.
If that mother or father had terrible feet and black hoofs, then the baby's going to have the same problem.
Sure. Absolutely right. Okay, let's move on to another one here. And I think somebody actually sent this one in. Horses should be wormed every 4 to 6 weeks. I mean, that was kind of a standard many, many years ago, but there's a better way of doing that today. If we will work with our vet, and let's concentrate on doing a fecal egg count, that'll tell us where we're at as far as parasites within that particular horse, and then we can worm accordingly at that point in time. So we may not need to be wormed every 4 to 6 weeks, but a fecal egg count will tell us that, okay? Another one, horses only sleep standing. They only sleep standing. That's not true. Horses will actually lay down, sleep. And in fact, that's where that horse is going to get its best sleep, if we want to refer to it as that. And the horse is only going to lay down if it's comfortable in its surroundings. And if you have a multitude of horses, and it's a winter day, and it's a good sunny day, you're going to see these horses down on the ground. And they'll have the appearance that I might ought to go check on them because it looks like they're dead. But in 9 out of 10 cases, there's going to be at least one horse that's going to remain standing. And what do you think that one horse is doing?
Watching.
He's watching. That's the guard dog, okay? All right. So, and even in our wild horses, this was the case as well, okay? But anyway, a horse is able to sleep standing. It's able to sleep laying down. Of course, that's where it gets its best sleep, or the REM sleep that we refer to. And of course, a horse is able to stand and sleep because it has a locking mechanism built into the horse where it's able to lock one leg in place, and 9 times out of 10 that opposite leg will kind of be back behind the horse and the toe just barely touching the ground there a little bit. The horse is sleeping, it's locked in, it's not going to fall over one way or another, and if it's distracted, it's ready to take flight at that point in time. Changing the subject again, here's another one. We never let a horse lay down that has a colic issue. And the vets all agree if that horse can lay down and be comfortable laying down without rolling and thrashing, then yes, it's okay to allow that horse to lay down, yes. But if it's moving, if it's thrashing, then let's get the horse up, okay? All right. So that was one of the things that was sent in as well. And we're coming down kind of to the end here. I know that we wanted to leave just a few minutes. We have to talk about the giveaways and all that when it comes to an end here.
Well, I know we probably have some questions as well. I've seen a few, a few people kind of comment and chime in here. And so if you guys have a question, now is the time to ask it. We'll be here, of course, for a little bit longer, and we'll be happy to tackle on some of these questions. As Mike mentioned, we do have a end of the year giveaway. I'm sure if you are familiar with our live events, then you probably noticed we didn't do the questions and the trivia because we're going to give away a testimonial giveaway. So if you'll submit your testimonial to cservice@lifedatalabs.com, if you include pictures, and you also need to have your name and your address, include all those in your email, send it to us, and then from now until the end of the year, we're going to be featuring those testimonials on our Facebook page. So if you submit one, you'll probably end up seeing it on our Facebook. And at the end of the year, we're going to pick 3 of those testimonials, and we're going to give those individuals a very large prize pack. And so we've got, of course, our Farrier's Formula t-shirt. So you'll receive one of those. You'll receive our hoof clay and our finish, which are non-caustic, antimicrobial products, really great for those, especially the finish for those wet conditions. Mike mentioned earlier, after a hot day, spraying your horse down with a hose. That can also, those hot days with the wet days going back and forth, we can develop some hoof problems. Farrier's finish is great. It's got some phospholipid compound in it. It's going to help control that moisture balance. Hoof clay is wonderful. Hoof cracks, defects, thrush, white line disease, this as well. So you receive one of these jars and one of these bottles. And then our Compose, which is our calming supplement.
Right.
And then our Breeder's Formula, which is for our canine friends. It's basically, I always refer to it as our Farrier's Formula for dogs.
It is, absolutely.
It's gonna help with that dermal tissue, help grow a better skin coat, a better hair coat. And the great thing about this is usually within the first month, you're going to be able to see that difference, within the first bag. And so that's a great product as well. And then you'll also receive our Farrier's Formula Double Strength, which is the #1 recommended hoof supplement by Farrier's. It's the only hoof supplement on the market with a white paper. It was independently researched and studied to be proven effective. And so you're going to receive, 3 of you will receive this large prize pack. So we'll throw that up one more time for me.
Okay.
And so again, if you will email cservice@lifedatalabs.com. If you don't want to email us, you can just private message us here on Facebook. And like I said, just send your testimonial. If you got it, just the picture can just be you and your horse. But if you have it before and after pictures, please send those. We'll throw in some extra points towards you, and then include your name and address. You got till the end of the year, and in January we'll announce those 3 winners.
Sure. I have 4 more things that I want to hit on.
Okay.
Okay, before our time runs completely out. And I've already touched on this one already, but it deals with sweat scraping. Does it help to cool a horse faster? And the conclusion was no, the only thing that sweat scraping does is it helps to dry the horse quicker. It doesn't help cool the horse, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And another one that can kind of be tied into sweat scraping, it says, I've heard someone swear that blanketing a horse actually makes them colder during the winter months. Well, the truth to that is that if that horse is wet and we apply that blanket while the horse is wet, then that blanket is going to wick that moisture away into the blanket itself, and it won't allow the blanket to warm the horse like it's supposed to. So there is some truth to that if we don't have a dry horse when we first apply the blanket to the horse then.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
Another one that was suggested too is, why do we have to mount a horse on the left side? Kind of standard practice, you know. You go to the left side of the horse. Most of the time when we tack the horse, saddle the horse, it's from the left side as well. Well, this goes back many, I mean hundreds of years why a horse is mounted on the left side, in that at that time frame we had soldiers that rode horses.
Swords. They
had swords, right. And so that's why they mounted those horses on that particular side, to keep them from getting tangled up into the horse gear, and to protect the horse as well from the sword itself. And the last one that I want to talk about just a few minutes, and I really haven't thought about this one a whole lot, and I've had horses for 30 plus years now myself, but it deals with whorls. That's WHORLS. And all that is a hair pattern that's located in different positions on the horse itself. It goes against the natural growth of the hair that's there, called a whorl, if you want to call it that. And of course, if you're in the thoroughbred industry, you know that when it comes to registering that particular thoroughbred, that you have to identify all these whorls, especially on the face, throat latch, and so forth, okay? So that comes into play there. But the question arises, is there a connection between whorls, their location, and the actual temperament of the horse? Never thought about that before, and I've done a little research on that. And believe it or not, I'm not the only one that has spent quite a bit of time in researching this, where that whorl or that pattern is located on the face of the horse or on either side of the horse. Is there a connection there to temperament? Of course, we know that each horse is an individual in itself, and there's always exceptions to any rule that we would want to make. But from what I have read, and the research that I have read, I would say that we could say there could be some connection there.
Oh, wow.
As far as whorls, where they're located, and the actual temperament of the horse. A lot of our horse trainers, that's one of the things that they consider, and they look at this to determine the temperament, the personality of that horse. And I'm going to refer you to 2 articles, and I want you to do your own research I was fascinated with what I read on this, okay? But the first one was written June the 13th, 2011, and it was done by Jennifer Meyer, and it's actually recorded in The Horse and Rider. And the title of this is Do Horse Whirl Patterns Indicate Temperament? Read that one. The other one is done by Charlotte Cannon. The title of this particular article in this research is called Whirlology. It's actually found in Horsemanship Journal. Okay? Very interesting reads there, and I'll let you make your own determination there. But what both of them agreed to was this, is that if a horse has a double whirl in a Z pattern, watch out. That's a bad one. Okay?
All right. That's interesting.
So we'll let the audience do their research, and they can get back with us and tell us how they feel about that there itself.
All right. Well, we do have a lot of questions that have come in. I'm going to tackle as many as we possibly can. So please be patient with us as we go through them. And if we don't answer one of your questions, you can always private message us or send us an email to that same email address for the giveaway, the cservice@lifedatalabs.com.
And we may not have the answer to the question.
Let's see here. The first one wanted to know any recommendations for thin soles.
Thin soles. What we've got to do, number one, exercise is going to help thin soles, yes. What it does is it helps to improve the metabolic rate, blood flow, and the more blood flow that we can get to the hoof capsule, that's carrying nutrients that that foot needs, it's carrying the needed oxygen that that foot needs, it's going to feed the foot, exercise itself. The addition of a good complete hoof supplement is going to help you tremendously in that it's going to internally regrow the foot itself, and in that regrowth process it will start at the coronary band. It's going to grow out that hoof wall internally, and outward it's going to thicken and strengthen that hoof wall, but the most important thing it's going to do, it's going to improve sole depth. And we know the more sole depth that we have, the more protection that we have from a hard surface to the bottom of the coffin bone, which is right there. In fact, typically you're only looking at about 1/4 of an inch of sole depth. And if we have thin soles, we have less than that there that's present. Okay?
And I know with Ferris formula as well, you always want to make sure to feed it at that, was it adult replenishment level or whatnot?
Yeah.
And so you always want to make sure to feed it at that level as well, which is with 1/2 cup for the 1,000-pound horse.
Sure, right.
The other thing, of course, environment can play a role in those issues as well. So using, like say, the Ferris finish or the Life Data hoof clay, specifically, especially since we're talking about the sole, the Ferris finish, of course, will go all over the entire hoof, but that's going to help as well.
Sure. In fact, I like to think about using the liquid product Ferris finish. I refer to this as what it's going to do, it's going to protect your investment in Ferris formula. It's going to help protect that new foot that's being grown. In fact, you can have a horse that has good hoof growth, and if the environment can actually destroy quicker what that horse is actually growing, and we would make the determination at that point, well, this didn't do anything for the horse. Well, it did, but the environment took it away quicker than it could be grown by the horse itself. So, yeah.
It's always important to keep in mind when we're talking about hoof quality, the 3 main factors are going to be genetics, nutrition, and the environment.
Sure.
And so, nothing really we can do about genetics. And again, white hoofs, black hoofs have nothing to do with it. But so we're going to tackle that from a nutrition standpoint, which is going to be the Ferris formula, and then the environment. And you really can't have one without the other.
That's right.
If you're just tackling something from an environmental standpoint and you're not seeing that improvement, then that means you need the nutrition. If you're doing the nutrition but not doing the hoof care and doing the protection against the environment, then you're going to continue to see some problems arise as well.
And one other thing that I'll throw out there too, it's extremely important that we feed a balanced diet to begin with. And we don't want to over supplement the horse, because over supplementation can actually void anything that we're trying to do nutritionally. Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a good balance.
Yeah.
And again, if you have any questions about, if you're worried about over supplementation or anything like that, give us a call. We got a staff here that are more than willing to help. All right, next question. Any advice on Cushing's treatment and maintenance? I will tell you this: we did a Cushing's live event.
We did.
It's about an hour long. It's under our videos. I strongly to encourage you to watch that. We also have a new product for Cushing's. It's called the Adrenal Formula. If that horse also has insulin resistance, you'll actually want to look at the Insulin R formula. But I definitely recommend that you watch that live event. Any other just quick recommendations you have?
Of course,
Cushing's?
diet in the Cushing's horse is extremely important. In fact, a lot of times these horses are some of our older horses to begin with. On average, a Cushing's horse is 15 and older in most cases there. Of course, we know the clinical signs as far as that long hair coat that doesn't want to shed in the spring of the year. We also know that as this horse progresses with the problem, that we can have muscle loss, especially in the top line itself. The horse can lose weight as well and become thin. So diet's extremely important. We've got to be mindful of sugar that's being provided the horse as well, and the source of that. And as Corbin mentioned, we do have a formulation that can be fed to the horse. And if it just has Cushing's by itself, then it can be fed the adrenal formula. And to complement that would be double strength Ferris formula.
Yeah, we do recommend.
And the reason that we incorporate the hoof supplement in with the adrenal or the Cushing's formula is that Cushing's horse is very much subject to foot issues, number one, and it's a likely candidate for laminitis and founder at some point down the road. So Ferris formula is going to help that situation as well.
Yeah. And that adrenal formula is only available in the United States at the moment. I know we've got some Europe people watching in Europe. Do horses have feelings toward their owners?
Yes, they do. I would agree with that statement 100%. And the horse has the ability to communicate. That horse will tell us. If you've ever watched several horses in a group together, most of the time you're going to have that dominant horse there, that alpha horse. And that horse is going to communicate to the other horses with those eyes, those ears, that tail or whatever. That horse does the same thing to us as well, you know.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Does an unshaven horse need to be blanketed under 50 degrees?
When we get down to, say, somewhere around 40, 41 degrees, I think that would be our goal there. Unless we've got some windy, cool conditions, then consider it at that point. But our target would be somewhere around 40, 41 degrees.
Gotcha. Is it okay to put a horse back in the stall that's been sweat scraped but not completely dry yet? Asking from a warm climate area.
I see no problems with that, whatsoever.
Okay. Should a mane be left to grow naturally long, or is it okay to keep it short? Does the mane aid in keeping the neck warm?
It would to some extent, yes, but how you trim the mane often is determined by the discipline of the horse, number one. It's also determined by personal preference, number two. Of course, we know that if the mane gets extremely long, it can get matted all together, and if we don't do a good job on top of that, it can become a mess. But a lot of times it's personal preference.
Absolutely. I see Pam here would like to know more information on Compose.
Okay, Compose is our calming agent for the horse. It has 3 active ingredients in it, and those are going to be tryptophan, magnesium, and thiamine, which is your B vitamin. These three key ingredients are the key nerve regulators for the horse. Mm-hmm. So we are supplying these three ingredients back to the horse, which these should be in the horse to begin with, but we know that we may have a horse that could be deficient in one, two, or all three of them. So that's the purpose of the ingredients in the product itself. Now, Compose can be fed on a daily basis, yes, and it also can be fed on a per event basis, where you actually give the product anywhere from 2 to 3 hours in advance of your activity, and that gives sufficient time for it to be taken up and absorbed by the horse itself. It allows the horse to fully function. It is not a sedative, and just a good, safe product.
Absolutely. This one's an interesting one. Standing up in your stirrups when your horse urinates while under saddle to get pressure off the kidneys. You know any information about that?
Will that help relieve some of the pressure? Possibly. I'd say maybe. Okay? Mm-hmm. But you still have the weight of the saddle, and you still have the weight of the rider that's present there. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yep. Any solution for hives in the spring that covers the whole body?
Sure. A hoof supplement such as Ferrous Formula mm-hmm. is going to target all the dermal tissue in the horse. Part of that makeup as far as dermal tissue is going to be the skin of the horse. Mm-hmm. So feeding Ferrous Formula in advance of the spring, getting it into the system of the horse, is going to help improve the overall health, quality of the skin, making it less likely that you have a problem with hives at that point in time.
Absolutely.
We don't think about that, but we only think about a hoof supplement as benefiting the foot. It's going to improve all dermal tissue, being the skin, hair coat, mane, tail. One aspect of the joint itself is connective tissue, which Ferrous Formula is going to help improve as far as cartilage and tendon and ligament as well.
Absolutely. Okay. Jamie would like to know, what can I do for my horse that gets an abscess in the same rear form? Does he need a hoof supplement? First, before I'm going to hand this over to Mike, we've also done live events on hoof abscesses. Mm-hmm. So I definitely, again, go back to our videos here on Facebook, jump on our YouTube, and you can find that video. Again, about an hour long, where we go through all the in and outs of hoof abscesses, some really good detailed information. I'll let you take it from there as far as feeding the hoof supplement.
Of course, I don't know all the facts that's involved here, but to answer the first question, would that horse benefit from a hoof supplement? And the answer to that is definitely yes, because it's going to, over a period of time, internally regrow that old foot out and replace it with a much improved foot that's higher in quality. And anytime you've got a good, healthy, dense, thick hoof wall, thick soles, then you're less likely to have that abscessing or that thrush problem or that wall separation that's going on, yes. Along with Ferrous Formula, the liquid product can be used on the entire foot, on the outside, to help fight off any bacteria, and also to maintain or regulate the moisture within the hoof capsule itself. After that abscess has completely quit draining, and let me reiterate that one more time, after it has completely quit draining, you can use the other product, which is our hoof clay. You can pack that into the abscess itself. If you want to wrap it, you can, depending on where the abscess ruptures. If it's in the sole, you might want to wrap it, and that helps to keep anything from getting into the abscess itself, then, or that exit one. So, yeah.
And the other thing I'll mention as well, and this is, of course, with abscesses, or really with any hoof, when you're putting on those topicals, 100% make sure that topical is non-caustic. meaning it's not going to burn you, it's not going to burn the horse, because the last thing you want to do while you're trying to have this hoof recover is to burn healthy, good tissue and to harm good tissue, because then that tissue becomes necrotic, which then becomes a feeding source for future bacteria, and that'll get you into bad troubles with cycles of thrush and different things like that.
Right.
So again, these products here are great examples of ones you can put them on your own hands. They're not going to burn you, not going to burn your horse. But always be careful with those caustic chemicals, because that can cause some pretty good damage to that hoof.
And another point too, if you're into some sensitive tissue and you're applying these caustic products, that's going to burn the horse. And over a point in time, that horse is going to tell you that no, you're not going to do that anymore. And you can end up with a behavior problem as well there, as far as picking up the foot of the horse. So be mindful of that.
Absolutely. Well, we've been on here for about an hour, so I'm going to begin ending this.
Sure.
Again, thank you everyone for attending. Hey, Will, let's throw up that testimonial giveaway one more time. Again, the giveaway for this one is a testimonial giveaway. Email us your testimonial at cservice@lifedatalabs.com. Include pictures. If you have before and after pictures, that gives you some extra points. If you don't, just a picture of your horse, a picture of you and your horse. Include your name and your address. That'll enter you into the contest. And what we're going to do is we'll be putting these on social media, putting up these testimonials until the end of the year. And at the end of the year, we got a nice big prize pack containing several of our products that we're going to give to 3 of those people. So please make sure to enter in that contest, and because we want to hear from you. And if you don't want to email us, just private message us here on Facebook. If you have any other questions, or if we did not answer your question, please let us know. Again, you can email us. You can contact us on Facebook, or pick up the phone and call us.
We'll be glad to help you.
Monday through Friday, here in the U.S. from 8 to 4:30 Central Time every day.
All right.
So we're here to answer your questions. Well, it's almost Christmas, so I hope everyone has a happy holidays and a Merry Christmas. A Happy New Year.
Sure.
We'll be taking January off from the live events, but we'll pick back up in 2023 in February.
And if you have a suggestion that you would like for us to cover, let us know.
Absolutely. Yep. We'd love to hear your suggestions. So if there's a topic that you'd like to hear us talk more or get more information about, or talk new, drop that in the comments. We'll love to see it.
Sure.
So I did see some people were asking if this event was recorded. They missed the beginning. Yes, it was recorded. All our live events are, and so you can find those under our videos. But everybody have a great Friday, great weekend, and again, a Merry Christmas.
Stay safe. Have a good weekend, and a very blessed holiday season as well.
Absolutely. Thank you.